Respected office bearers in various capacities, senior doctors of Indian Academy of Pediatrics, and my dear friends. We have gathered together this evening for yet another informative session in Meet the Stalwarts series. Without further ado, let me move on to my duty of welcoming the gathering. First of all, I welcome Dr. Ranjit P., the vibrant chairperson, AHA Kerala. Let me welcome our respected president of IAP Kerala, Dr. Jose O. We are honored by the presence of Dr. Sukanda Chatterjee, the chairperson, Central AHA. Welcome you, sir, to the session. Let me extend a warm welcome to our respected speaker, Dr. Newton Lewis, past chairperson, AHA Kerala. I take this opportunity to welcome Dr. Shimmi Paulus, President-elect of IAP Kerala. Let me also welcome our dear teacher, respected Dr. Vijaykumar Sir, immediate past President of IAP Kerala. I extend a hearty welcome to the Dynamic Secretary of IAP Kerala, Dr. Krishna Mohan. And with great pleasure, I welcome our own Dr. Santosh Sir, past President of IAP Kerala. Let me also welcome our own Dr. Johnny Sebastian Sir, past Secretary of IAP Kerala. I also welcome ever enthusiastic Secretary of AHA Kerala, Dr. Deepa Janardhanan. Let me welcome my colleague and pillar of strength, Dr. Priya Rajendran, Joint Secretary of IAP Talasheri. Also, welcome to my dear friend Shweta, our MOC for the evening. Last but not least, let me welcome all doctors of Indian Academy of Pediatrics and Adolescent Health Academy who have gathered here. Let's have a fruitful academic feast. Thank you.
Thank you, madam. Now may I invite our dynamic chairperson of AHA Kerala, Dr. Ranjit P. Sir, for the presidential address.
Respected State President Dr. Jose Sir, respected Central AHA Chairperson Sukanda Chatterjee Sir, today's esteemed speaker Dr. Norton Lewis Sir, the immediate past President of IAP Kerala Dr. Vijaykumar Sir, President-elect Dr. Shimmi Sir, and past President of IAP Kerala Dr. Santosh Sir, and Dynamic Secretary of IAP Kerala Dr. Krishna Mohan Sir, and past Secretary of IAP Dr. Johnny Sir, and esteemed office bearers of IAP Talasheri Dr. Danya, Dr. Priya, and my team, Dr. Deepa Ma'am and Dr. Shweta. And with proud and privilege, we are presenting yet another series of Meet the Stalwart. It's our honor to be our past chairperson of AHA Kerala and our guide for all the AHA activities, Dr. Newton Lewis Sir, for this wonderful talk. And we are fortunate to have the presence of our respected Sukanda Chatterjee Sir as the chairperson and chief guest for this function. So without further delay, I we will continue with the Meet the Stalwarts and AHA Kerala activities with the support of IAP Kerala and Central AHA. And best wishes for this program. Jai Hind, Jai IAP, Jai AHA. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Now may I invite the respected President of IAP Kerala, Dr. Jose O. Sir, to address the gathering.
Thank you, Dr. Seva, for invitation. And today the chairperson of our AHA, Dr. Ranjit. Today the chief guest, Sukanda Chatterjee, for Central IAP chairperson of AHA. Today the faculty, our dynamic AHA leading person, Dr. Newton Lewis Sir. Secretary, Dr. Deepa Janardhanan. Our immediate past president of IAP Kerala, Dr. Vijaykumar. President-elect Dr. Shimmi, Dynamic Secretary of IAP Kerala, and supporting for all activities of IAP Kerala, Dr. Krishna Mohan, and immediate past Secretary of IAP Kerala, or Dr. Johnny Sebastian, our past President of IAP Kerala, Dr. Santosh, Sir, and Dr. Priya, the IAP Talasheri branch President, Dr. Danya, and all the senior members like Dr. Purushottam Sir and all the faculties, all the IAP members joined together in the web series. At the outset, I take the opportunity to congratulate AHA chapter doing a wonderful job and with regularly conducting the Meet the Stalwarts with the important issue, the present issue area concerns. Again, AHA has done a wonderful job and making a lot of module for benefit for the adolescent and tackling the issues regarding the various aspects. And today, another important topic is led by none other than our adolescent person, Dr. Neutralizer, to discussing regarding the adolescent parenting, because adolescent issue parenting is a big issue to how to counsel, how to tackle the parents. Counseling is very important in adolescent is concerned. So that is very important aspect. If the adolescent parenting is a big issue, we have to be tackled in updated regarding the aspect. I think Dr. Newton Lewis will do a wonderful, sir will going to deliberate a wonderful job on this aspect. Again, IAP Talacheri branch taken the initiation to coordinate this AHA, conducting the Stalwarts program. I congratulate Danya and team for doing a wonderful job for IAP activities and conducting these programs. And with this word, I conclude my talk. I wish you all the best program for AHA activities. Jai Hind, Jai IAP.
Thank you, sir. We have as our chief guest the very distinguished chairperson of Central AHA, Dr. Sukanta Chatterjee, sir. May I invite sir to address the gathering?
Good evening, and I first of all congratulate the AHA Kerala and AHA Talasheri branch, and also the IAP Kerala for organizing this important topic, parenting adolescents. Well, all of us know that what is the importance of parenting adolescents, and this is considered as one of the most important protective factors of adolescent's mind as it grows into the diverse and adverse world. And that ultimately sets in the beginning of mental health issues and problems of adolescence. So the most important protective factor is positive parenting. And I personally feel that all of us must understand it and must try to do justice to our children. The adolescent health I started doing late in my career. So when I learned it, I really understood and realized what mistakes I made while my sons were adolescents. So these are important issues. I must say that every one of us should learn from the beginning of the career, not only do to justice to our children, but also the adolescents in general. And without waiting further, I must invite Dr. Newton, whom we know many years, and we are waiting to listen to sir, particularly how you parent the adolescents. Thank you.
Do I
Thank you,
start?
sir.
Dr.
Sir,
Sweda?
Sir, can we do the felicitations?
Please go ahead.
Thank you, sir. Sorry.
No problems.
Sorry, sir. There was some.
Yes, we should go at per agenda. So the situation is there in that.
Now for the felicitation. Sorry, there was a glitch from my part. So let us move on to the felicitations with the permission of our chairperson, distinguished chairperson and speaker. For the felicitations, may I invite Dr. Shimi Paulo, sir, President-elect of IAP Kerala. Over to you, sir.
Respected Chairperson of AHA Kerala, Dr. Ranjit, State President, Dr. Jose, the Central AHA Chairperson, Dr. Sukanta Chatterjee, sir, our Speaker for the day, Dr. Newton Lewis, office bearers of IAP Kerala as well as of AHA Kerala, and the delegates who have joined us today. Definitely, I think so. Dr. Newton Lewis is all set to take the show. So I don't think so we should be in between, but definitely parenting adolescents is a really tough job nowadays. Adolescents never like to be lectured and never like to hear the word no. So these two things are the only things that parents can say to them. So I think so we have to also change. So more than we learning things, I think so it is what we can communicate to the parents and give them that support to get this adolescent issues under control. So, and I think so Dr. Newton Lewis is a real person who can really give us some information and help us also in tackling these issues. And wishing AHA Kerala all the best, and also all the best for the program. JAP, JAA, AHA, Jai Hind.
Thank you, sir. Now may I invite our respected Dr. Vijay Kumar, sir, immediate past president of IAP Kerala, for the felicitation.
Respected Chairperson of Adolescent Chapter, Dr. Sugandha Chatterjee, my best friend, Dr. Ranjit, Chairperson of AHA Kerala, Dr. Jose, beloved State President of IAP Kerala, Dr. Shimi, Dr. Krishna Mohan, Johnny Sebastian, Deepa, Shweta, Shyam, and of course, Dr. Newton Lewis, the speaker of this day. And we are eagerly waiting for your talk on parenting. And just to tell a few words about AHA, AHA was in the forefront during our last year, our presidential action plan, and they bagged the best subspecialty chapter award, I think, continuously for the last 2 years. And last year, I was also a part of this module formation. They made a lot of modules, very useful for the parents and for the teaching pediatricians also, how to care about adolescents. This year also, they are continuing their journey, and I'm very happy that this AHA is doing a wonderful job for IAP Kerala, and I wish all the best for IAP AHA Kerala and for this talk, Dr. Newton Lewis, and all the programs based on the stalwarts talks. I'm eagerly waiting. Everybody is eagerly waiting for you. All the best. Jai Hind, JAP, JAHA.
Thank you, sir. Now may I invite Dr. Krishna Mohan, sir, Secretary of IAP Kerala, for the felicitations.
Someone audible alla. Someone audible alla.
Hello.
Yeah.
Okay. So respected State President, respected national and state OBs of AHA and the organizers of today, IAP Talasheri branch. So as we are running short of time, I wish all best wishes to this program for this very wonderful and very useful topic from our ever young Newton Lewis, sir. Best wishes. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Now may I invite Dr. Santosh M.K. sir, past president of IAP Kerala, for the felicitations.
Good evening, everybody. Respected dignitaries on the platform and my dear friends. Adolescence is a critical period in everybody's life. Neither the society nor the doctors accept them as children or adult. They face a lot of psychological, emotional, and social problems. So we will be discussing about parenting the adolescents today by Dr. Newton Lewis. Newton Lewis is a voracious reader and a writer also. We have in 2019, IAP has published a book on parenting written by Dr. Newton Lewis. If I remember it correctly, we have printed nearly 3,000 copies in 2019. I'm not taking much of your time. We can hear a lot from Dr. Newton. All the best for today's speech and to AHA. Thank you. Jai IAP.
Thank you, sir. Now may I invite Dr. Johnny Sebastian, sir, past secretary of IAP Kerala, for the felicitations.
Good evening, all. Respected chairperson and my dear friend, Dr. Ranjit, our dynamic state president, Jose sir, chief guest of the day, the central AHA chairperson, Dr. Chatterjee, other dignitaries on this platform today, and my dear colleagues. At the outset, let me congratulate AHA Kerala and IAP Talasheri for arranging this excellent webinar, which is a need of the hour. As we all know, it's very difficult, the parenting adolescents. And we have none other than Dr. Newton Lewis, sir, to enlighten on this very important topic. And I wish all those who have joined today on the Zoom platform a great learning experience. Thank you. Jai Hind, JIAP. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Now let us move on to after the inaugural session, now let us move on to the scientific session. To introduce the chairperson of the day, may I invite the vibrant secretary of AHA Kerala, Dr. Deepa Janardhanan ma'am.
Good evening, everyone. Respected seniors, dignitaries, and my dear friends. It's indeed an honor for me to introduce our chairperson for today's session, Dr. Sugandha Chatterjee. Sir is the Honorable Chairperson, Central AHA 2023. He was ex-professor and HOD Pediatrics, Kolkata Medical College. There was the organizing chairperson, First Asian Congress on Adolescent Health, organized by AHA and IAP 2022. He was a chairperson, GDBP, IAP 2016 and 17. He was the president, IAP West Bengal in 2008. He was also the WHO expert for APW on adolescent health. He had 32 publications in PubMed Index Journal and also had done 7 journal reviews. He had authored many books, including IAP textbooks and PG textbooks. He was the adolescent clinic in charge for 14 years at MCH plus KPC, and also the in charge medical educational unit, secretary, IEC, KPC, MC, Kolkata. Extremely happy to have you here, sir. Over to you, Sugandha, sir. Over to you, sir, Sugandha, sir.
Well, I have already told about this program today, but I must say that AHA is now spread all over the country in different branches, and each and every branch is doing a lot of activities, both in person and virtual platform. So that is really increasing the adolescent health activities, not only for ourselves, but also for the adolescents. That's very encouraging. And I hope this will continue. And today's activity is like that. Adolescent parenting, very important, at the same time, very traditional point. I should invite Dr. Newton to start this scientific program. Dr. Newton, please.
Yes, sir. All ready, sir. Shall I try to, I'll try to share the screen first.
Yes, please.
It's not coming.
Notice sir, host തന്നെ പറ്റുമെന്നല്ലോ.
എന്തെന്ത്
സാറ് co-host തന്നെയാണ്, അപ്പൊ ഷെയർ ചെയ്യാൻ പറ്റാതിരിക്കേണ്ട കാര്യമില്ല.
നോക്കട്ടെ എന്താ സംഭവിക്കുന്നതെന്ന് മനസ്സിലാവുന്നില്ല. No, I want to show my slides.
Sir, now we are seeing the Zoom platform.
You are seeing yourself?
Just open.
Huh?
Yes. Now we are seeing the Zoom
I know.
Zoom.
Yeah, I'll try to get some mistakes somewhere.
Please share this screen.
PPT open, sir.
Okay, wait one second. Let me try again.
PPT open ആണോ? PPT on ആണോ?
ഒരു മിനിറ്റ് സാറേ. ഇപ്പൊ വല്ലതും കാണാമോ? ഇല്ല. One second. Okay. Choose what to share.
Is your presentation open in the lab?
Yes, I opened it in my desktop.
Yes, desktop. Then you click the screen share.
Let me try it again. It's in home. Yeah, it's in open there.
Share screen, sir.
Share screen click is showing choose what to share. Chrome tab, Windows, or entire screen.
സാറ് വേറൊരു വിൻഡോയിൽ സാറ് ആ പവർ പോയിന്റ് ഓപ്പൺ ചെയ്ത് വെക്കും. അപ്പൊ പിന്നെ എന്നിട്ട് നേരെ അത് സെലക്ട് ചെയ്താൽ മതി.
ഒരു മിനിറ്റ്, വേറൊരു വിൻഡോയില്
എന്റെ സ്ക്രീൻ ഷെയർ ചെയ്തിട്ട് പവർ പോയിന്റ് ഷെയർ ചെയ്താൽ മതി.
എൻറ്റയർ സ്ക്രീൻ ചെയ്താൽ മതി. എൻറ്റയർ സ്ക്രീൻ
ഇപ്പൊ എന്താ സംഭവിക്കുന്ന അറിയില്ല. സി ഐ ഗോട്ട് ഇൻ മൈ ഡെസ്ക്ടോപ്പ് ഐ ഗോട്ട് ദ സ്ക്രീൻ.
ഇനി സാറ് പവർ പോയിന്റ് ഓപ്പൺ ചെയ്താൽ മതി. അതിനകത്ത്
പവർ പോയിന്റ് തുറന്നിട്ടുണ്ട് ഓൺ ഡെസ്ക്ടോപ്പ്. ഇനി സ്ക്രീൻ ഷെയറിൽ അത് വരുന്നില്ല.
എൻറ്റയർ സ്ക്രീൻ ചെയ്താൽ മതി സാറേ.
എൻറ്റയർ സ്ക്രീൻ ആകുമ്പോ ഈ സ്ക്രീൻ ആണ് കാണിക്കുന്നത്.
അല്ല സാറേ, ഷെയർ ഓപ്ഷൻ ഷെയർ കൊടുത്തോ സാറ്?
ഇത് ഷെയർ ക്ലിക്ക് ചെയ്യുന്നില്ല. ഇറ്റ്സ് നോട്ട് കമ്മിങ്. ലെറ്റ് മീ സീ വൺസ് അഗൈൻ. ഷെയർ ക്ലിക്ക് ചെയ്യാൻ വരുന്നില്ല. സംതിങ് റോങ്.
Sir, എനിക്ക് mail ചെയ്യാം.
ഒരു മിനിറ്റ്.
You can send your presentation by email.
ശരി.
Now it is
വന്നു സാർ.
കാണാം സാർ. സ്ലൈഡ് ഷോ ലൈക്ക്
Full screen ആക്കാം.
ഇപ്പൊ ഫുൾ സ്ക്രീൻ ആണോ?
അല്ല സാറേ,
സ്ലൈഡ് ഷോ
സ്ലൈഡ് സെലക്ട് ചെയ്യാം.
കപ്പ് പോലത്തെ ഐക്കൺ ലാസ്റ്റിലല്ല.
ഇവിടെ ഫുൾ സ്ക്രീൻ ആണ്.
Now go to slide show.
Sir, select first slide, then put it in slide show, sir. Slide show last കാണാം.
Yeah, from the beginning.
അതെ.
ഇപ്പൊ ക്ലിയർ ആയോ?
ഇല്ലല്ലോ.
ഇല്ല.
What's happening?
സാറേ ഇതില്ലേ ഇപ്പുറത്തുള്ളത് കറണ്ട് ആയിട്ട് വന്ന സംഭവം പോയാ?
എന്തുപറ്റി?
ഇപ്പൊ പോയി സാറേ.
ഇപ്പൊ കംപ്ലീറ്റ് പോയി അല്ലേ?
ഇപ്പൊ വരുന്നില്ല.
എനിക്ക് മെയിൽ ചെയ്യാവോ സർ? പ്രസന്റേഷൻ
മെയിൽ ഇറ്റ് ടു യു.
Yeah.
One second. Yeah, I think that's the best thing to do. It's mail it to you fast. Sorry about the confusion.
No sir, no issue sir.
This is technical problem. As we are not accustomed with this sort of virtual platform now, so it's very difficult. We are not conversant with floating in the cloud. That's why I do face this sort of problems very often.
Yes, I'm trying to send it to Dr. Deepa. It's taking a little time.
നാളെ രാത്രി.
Anyway, before even though it's, can you hear me, sir?
Yeah, able to hear.
Okay. Anyway, so you while the slides have been downloaded, first of all,
മെയിൻ സ്ക്രീൻ
No, let it be. It will come in a moment. So anyway, thank you very much for inviting me for this program. I am frankly honored to be described as an stalwart. I know that I am not in the same league as those who came before me in this group of presentations. Anyway, adolescent parenting is a very important topic, but it is also a gigantic topic. How much can you cover in 45 minutes? We can talk about a few select important aspects, especially emotional and intellectual development and the consequences that we come across. The first thing is, what is adolescent parenting? Now we know that parenting is basically bringing up a child, looking after a child and bringing up the child. If so, what is adolescent parenting? Adolescent parenting is the process of helping a child to grow up into a mature and independent adult. So one sec. Yes, Deepa, I send the message to you.
Okay. Let me see something.
Yeah. So, so yeah, basically to help the child, the immature and dependent child to become a mature and independent adult. So the basic problem is like at 10 years, he's such a small little child. And by the age of 16, 17, he's taller than his parents. Already there is confusion. His mother asks him to do something. He says, I'm taller than you. Who are you to tell me what to do? So just because he's grown taller, he suddenly thinks I'm bigger than you. I'm taller than you. Why should you tell me what to do? He becomes defiant. And it's not only he who is confused, his parents are equally confused. Being only 17 years old, he will sometimes behave childish, and then his mother will immediately say, you're bigger than me and you're behaving like a small child. So the adults and the children both are confused just because he's become as tall as us, bigger than us. Is he a child, or should I treat him as a child or as an adult? This is a very common confusion. That is why adolescent is sometimes defined, an adolescent is defined as a person who behaves. Yes. You can go down to the next slide.
Is it full screen now,
Yeah.
sir?
This is good enough. Everybody can see clearly. Yes, just keep clicking.
Clear.
Yeah. Yes, please continue. Yes. Yeah. So here you are. One slide up. So an adolescent can be described as a person who will cry like a child if you do not treat him like an adult. He is both at the same time. Now, what is our job with regard to the emotional development of the child? That is what creates all this emotional conflict between the parents and the adults, between the parents and the child. He's growing up into adolescent. There's a lot of emotional issues involved. The adolescent wants to be independent. That is why he rebels. How do we help the adolescent to grow up, to mature emotionally in a good way? The adolescent rebellion. The child needs independence. Every child is always asking for independence and fighting with his parents. But because he's a child, he cannot fight too much. The adolescent not only wants freedom, he needs that freedom, because he is like Eric Erickson tells us, adolescent is the phase at which the person has to develop his identity, develop his personality. Therefore, he should become an independent identity. He should develop an independent identity. So he's desperate. He's craving for freedom much more than he used to as a child. So how do I explain this to the adolescent when I take classes for them? I tell them, okay, adolescent rebellion is very common, but what is the consequence? The child, he has absolutely no independence. If you are a 5-year-old child, whatever your mother and father tell you to do, you have to do it. At the same time, that 5-year-old child has absolutely no responsibility. Whatever he needs, in fact, most of what he wants will be given to him by his parents. So no independence, but also no responsibility. Next, please. The adult, on the other hand, has full independence. Deepa, next point. The adult is fully independent. He can do whatever he wants to. But at the same time, now what is that now? The adult has full independence. He can do whatever he wants. At the same time, he also has full responsibility. Whatever he wants, all the responsibilities of his own needs and his children's needs, he has to satisfy. So the meaning is clear. Independence and responsibility are two sides of the same coin. You want independence, you have to accept responsibility. Okay, both are two sides of the same coin. So I tell the adolescent, there's no point in fighting with your parents, demanding freedom. In Gulab Sindabad, at home, it doesn't work. What do you want? Behave like an adult. Take up all the responsibilities of an adult, and you will be treated as an adult. Behave like a child, and you will be treated like a child. We are not talking about big things. You have to go, if your mother has to pull you out of bed at 7 o'clock in the morning, come on, get up, you got to go to school. If your mother at 5, 6 o'clock in the evening, she has to take that, put off the TV and force you, go, you have to study. Okay, just the slide above this. Go, it's time for you to study. If at night she has to again wake you up, madam, take that mobile away from you. Come on, it's time to go to bed. If at every stage, your mother has to tell you what to do, when to do, why to do it. So far as she is concerned, it doesn't matter whether you're 10 years old or 20 years old, whether you're small or taller than her. So far as she is concerned, you're a small little child. You have no sense of responsibility. If you want to be treated as an independent person, you have to behave like an independent person, behave like a responsible person. Create a timetable for yourself. What time will I go to sleep and what time will I wake up? What time will I sit at my books? Make a timetable. Discuss it with your parents, because your timetable has to match with the family timetable, such as family free time, family meals, family prayers, etc. Find a suitable timing and make sure, and your mother will want to ensure that you are sleeping adequately and spending adequate time with your books. So if you can come to a negotiation about a suitable timetable, and from that day onwards, if you are going to follow the timetable without your parents running behind you, if you go to sleep at the right time, you wake up at the right time, you sit to study at the right time, then your mother's relieved, your parents are relieved. They've been running after you all their lives. Now they can relax. They don't have to run after you. They can relax. You are behaving responsible. You can look after yourself. They will happily give you as much freedom as you can accept, as you are willing to accept, because they are getting their own freedom. They no longer have to look after you as though you are a small child. That is how you become and get independence, by behaving in a responsible fashion. Now, this is what I tell the adolescents. One more point I add to the children when I tell the parents, and that is this slide. I remind them that responsibility is not something that can be put onto an adolescent. It has to start from early childhood. Take a 3 or 4-year-old child is playing with building blocks. When he finishes, ask him to put back the building blocks. The above slide, please. Ask them to put back the building blocks in the right poem, in the correct place. That is required. And he will put back one, and by that time you will have put back 5. But he's happy. He notices that he feels that I am putting back the toys. And over a period of a few weeks, he will actually be capable of putting back all the toys without your help. An older child can and should help in the family in whatever the parents are doing. Little bit he can help. Most important, in his room, he should arrange his own books for the next day's class, his own school bag. Of course, a 6-year-old cannot take responsibility for that. He will arrange it, and then his mother has to double check and make sure he has taken all the books. He will arrange his table. The mother should make sure that everything is kept rightly. He will arrange his bed and his room, but his mother will have to, after he leaves, put the bed, make the bed a little more neat, and maybe make the room a little more clean. But he has to have the sense that I am looking after myself. Responsibility has to start from childhood. Thanks. Next slide, please. Nope. Yeah. No, you go. Yeah. Okay, right. So basically, adolescents crave independence because they desperately need it in order to develop their own personality. So we have to negotiate a healthy choice with them in all matters, whether it is food, whether it is timing, whether it is going to sleep, wake up, studies, everything we have to discuss with them. The child has to be told what to do. We tell him in a polite way, but we tell him what to do, and if he doesn't listen, we can be strict with them. The adolescent needs to think. He needs to learn to think, to take charge of himself. Therefore, he does not like it if we tell him what to do. We have to sit with him, discuss with him. He has the intelligence now to listen, and we have to discuss with him, discuss why these things are important, and explain to him why they're important, and negotiate a healthy choice in all matters with him. Always negotiation, not top-down telling them what to do. And we have to remember that even the sweetest adolescent, the most obedient adolescents, even they will sometimes rebel. That's part of life. Every adolescent will rebel at some time or other. Frequently, they will rebel. Even then, even when they rebel, even when we are strict with them, we have to continue giving them unconditional love. Next slide, please. Yes. Here we are unconditional love, and we have to accept that even angels will rebel. Every child will rebel for no reason. Sometimes they'll rebel because Sometimes and you ask them later, they will ask you sometimes, or if you ask them, they have no explanation why they rebel. Sometimes you tell them to do something, you ask them to do something, no matter how politely you ask them, they will disobey. Sometimes they will tell you do things without informing you. They will take the car and go out without informing you. They'll go for a joy ride, for a long distance ride without telling you. They'll bunk classes without telling you. You are not aware of it. Why do they rebel? Partly because they are so desperate to prove to themselves that they are independent. Much of the rebellion has a cause, but sometimes they will rebel just to prove to themselves that they are capable of rebelling, just to prove to themselves that they are independent. They are so desperate to prove to themselves that they won't even ask you when they know that you will say yes. Even then, they will sometimes do things without asking you. Next, please. Right. Now, here is one problem with mothers especially find very difficult to manage, and that is the emotional distancing of the child. Now, what happens is the child is now growing up into adolescence. The child loves to cling to his mother, to the mother, and always likes to cling to the mother, likes to embrace the mother, likes the mother to embrace her, etc. all the time. But this same child, adolescence, the attitude changes. At 10 years old, the child comes back from school. And when she comes back at 4 o'clock, the mother has kept a glass of milk there and some snacks. And the child has the milk and the snacks. And over a period of 10 minutes, while having this little bit of food and fluids, she will tell her mother, in a 10-minute brief summary, everything that happened to her in school. This boy behaved very mischievous in the classroom. That teacher said and said did such and such a thing. Principal sent a notice like this. Anything that happened in the school that she felt was of consequence, she will inform her mother. In 10 minutes time, she has given a nice summary of the entire day with anything that she did, good and bad. It's very important that we listen. It might be very trivial matters to our ears, but that trivial matters, if we listen to, will tell us about the personality of the child, what the child considers as important. And more important, if the child can see that my parents are always listening to all my little chitter chatter, when something important, dangerous, risky happens, which can happen to any child, they will say it openly, or at least they will give a hint, which will be clearly understood by a parent who is willing to listen. So if we are willing to listen to them always, when something happens, they will be willing to tell us about it. They will have the courage to tell us about it. Otherwise, child abuse happens because the child does not have the guts to talk to the parents. Now, this I'm talking about a 10-year-old child. What about the age of 15 or 16? This same child at the age of 15, 9th standard, 10th standard, comes back home from school and takes a glass and just gulps it down and takes a snack and walks into the bedroom and locks the bedroom and while munching on that food. The child does not say a word to the mother. And if the mother goes after her, how was school today? Good. What happened in school? Nothing. Come on, didn't anything happen to you? Amma, I just went to school. What can happen in school? School, we study. That's it. She doesn't want to talk to her mother. She's chasing away her mother. She's keeping away from her mother. And the parents, especially the mothers, get very upset because they know instinctively this child is deliberately trying to create an emotional gap between herself and me. Now, this is emotional distancing. The child is, the adolescent actually needs her parents as much as the child. There's no difference. They are as desperate for parental support, for parental advice, for parental praise, for parental guidance, not guidance so much, but for parental praise and support as much as the child. But they can't show it. They need to be independent. They need to prove not only to the parent, they need to prove to themselves that they are independent. Therefore, they will deliberately keep aside and pretend that they don't want to talk to their parents. They don't want to live with their parents to talk to them. They are keeping a distance, an artificial distance, just to prove to themselves that I am growing up. But that is only a show. When they feel unhappy about something, if they come to us, we must be ready to listen. We must not say, oh, or when I want to talk to you, you're not interested. Now I don't want to talk to you. That is a very wrong attitude. The child wants us. An adolescent is just a grown-up child. They want us desperately. They want our support. But they are incapable of showing that desire need for support. They deliberately show that they are not interested. So we must still understand that the need is there. We should be available. We should try to create opportunities for chat. The easiest way is dinner time. If at dinner time we all have dinner together, and if no mobiles are permitted at that time and no TV is permitted at that time, definitely nobody likes silence. If there is no TV and no mobiles, there will be chit chat, irrelevant chat, trivial chat, but that irrelevant, trivial chit chat is what keeps us united. That's important. And many of my friends have told me who got very busy practices, that because they don't have time throughout the week, and on the weekend they try every weekend to go for a small little picnic, small little trip, or if nothing else, just go and eat out. Because when you're in a restaurant, 4 of you sitting together close on one table, and if you can control this business of touching your mobile phone, there's no TV around, then naturally a little bit of conversation will take place. Next slide, please. Yeah, so we have to be available. No matter how busy we are, we have to be available. Our children need our presence. Next. Next, please. Yeah. Now, because the adolescent is deliberately creating an emotional distance between herself and her parents, she's deliberately refusing the support of her parents, but she is not independent. She's not capable of managing by herself. So what does she do? She needs support as much as she needed 3 years ago, but she's pretending that she doesn't need it. So when she needs support, if she's fortunate, she might be able to get that support not from her parents, but from a very kind aunt or neighbor or grandparent, if she is lucky. Or a coach in the school, a loving teacher. Some teachers are really good, and children just love to sit and chat with them, and the teachers are willing to listen. So if this kind of thing happens, it's good. Other than that, the big influence on the adolescent is peer influence, because the child needs support and she's removed the adult support. She needs an alternative support, and peer support comes in here. If the peers are good, you're studying in a good school and the children are all have a positive attitude towards studies and a negative attitude towards alcohol and drugs, the adolescent will generally do well. But if the peer influence is of the wrong type, the adolescent can easily get misled. Next, please. Yes. When everything is said and done, the adolescent will get upset at times, desperately upset. Children get upset all the time because they have very little self-control. The adolescent is a little more mature, but he will get upset. After all, we adults also get upset so often. When the adolescent is upset, we can ask them what they are upset about. And the most important thing is that we listen sincerely to them. When a child comes with a problem, we listen, we sympathize with them, and we immediately offer them a solution, and that is what they want. The adolescent does not want solutions. He has to be independent. He only wants moral support. Listen sincerely, that's the most important. And give sympathetic statements. Say that mistakes will happen. Don't advise, don't lecture, don't scold. All these things are very easy for us to preach, but when it's our adolescent, we have it's our automatic tendency to find a solution and tell them what to do. We must not do this. Our job is to listen. And finally, if and when they ask for advice, at that time, if we give advice hopefully in a slightly indirect and polite manner, they will be willing to listen. They may or may not accept, but once they ask for advice, they will be more willing to listen. We must not push advice down their throat, which is what we do with children, and the children want immediate advice, an immediate solution. With adolescents, we must be reluctant to give advice, and we must be willing to listen sincerely, sympathetically, empathetically. Next, please. Yeah, about risky behavior. Now, risky behavior is risk-taking behavior is normal in this age group. They want to prove that they are independent. They are convinced that they are mature. So they will prove their independence by going out, and they want to experience life. Otherwise, how can I become an adult? I need to experience everything. I'll try everything now and then, once in a way. So easy thing to try is alcohol. And everybody else is doing it. Why can't I do it? Even my parents are doing it. Why can't I do it? The problem is that alcohol can lead to, it is a major cause in adolescence of death due to road traffic accidents, and in some states like Kerala, drowning. It is also a major lubricant for unprotected sex. And of course, the long-term consequences like alcoholism, he is not interested about. But we have to remember that what the adolescent, that the earlier during adolescence, that the early adolescent has absolutely no maturity. Physical maturity is being achieved. It will be achieved completely by around 18 years of age. Emotional maturity is only just starting. The ability to control your feelings, your desires is difficult. The adolescent who starts smoking before the age of, by the age of 15 is 5 times more likely in adult to be an adult addict, an alcoholic, than the adolescent who starts after the age of 18. Just a postponement in the onset of alcohol use will drastically reduce the onset or the amount of alcoholism in our population. This applies not only to alcohol, but also to smoking, to drugs, to even what do you call it, social media addiction, internet addiction. All addictions, the child is immature and cannot control his addictions. The earlier you give them a chance to get addicted, the greater the chance that they will permanently become addicted. This is important for us because there's a concept among educated persons, including pediatricians, among educated persons, that alcohol is good, it's harmless. It's only that you have to limit your drinking. So how do you limit your drinking? We take 1 peg, 2 pegs and stop. So there are lots of adults nowadays who are starting. We'll teach our adolescent how to drink. When we are having a peg, we'll give it to the adolescent, and at the age of 13 and 15, we are teaching them how to take minimum drinking. They don't have the maturity for it. The earlier they start, the more likely they are to become adolescents. The number one risk protection is to postpone alcohol, smoking, etc. Tobacco is actually the greatest killer, much more than alcohol. And it also leads to smoking cannabis and later other drugs. All drugs the adolescent is prone for, because I'll try anything once. It's a sort of catchphrase. I'll try anything once, but once is adequate to get addicted to some drugs like cocaine or heroin. And there is a not uncommon practice. HIV in Kerala, in most of India actually, is spreading primarily through adolescents and young adults. Okay, they want to experiment with it. So between the age of 15 and 25 is when they are most exposing them to bother about protection. So risk-taking behavior is something that we have to be very careful about. We have to discourage this, and the only way we can do this is by talking to them about it. Next, please. Right. Now, I've just tried to cover many important aspects of the emotional development of the child. There's so much that we cannot obviously finish. Now, a little bit about the intellectual development of the child. Next slide, please. Yeah. Now, the intellectual development of the child. Up to the age of around 12 to 13, the child is using what we know, Piaget has told us, just concrete thinking, logical thinking. He is very good for his studies, logical thinking. Whatever he sees, whatever he experiences, he can study and he can mug up very by heart. But what is not in his experience, not in his field of vision, he cannot understand. That requires abstract thinking, which develops at the age of 13, around 13 to 15, and goes on and gets completed full by the age of 25. By the age of 13 to 15, the adolescent can understand things that he's never, think about things that he's never thought about. When did time begin? Where does the universe come to an end? How large is the universe? Does God exist? Okay, he's thinking about big, complicated things, religion, theology, philosophy, things that he's never thought about. And he has no experience, very limited knowledge. And with this, he's trying to think big things. And because he doesn't have enough logic to realize that there are 3 options, he only knows one option. So he thinks that option, whatever I'm thinking about, is right. And if anybody says something slightly different, that person is wrong. So his At the age of 13 to 16, children are absolutely stunned by how intelligent they are. They can see their intelligence expanding so fast, they actually begin to think that they know everything. It's only later as they become more and more, get more and more experience, and as they become more mature, as they get time to think more and more, that they begin to realize that their intelligence is taking time to develop and will fully develop only by around the age of 25 years. So at the age of 8 years, my daughter, she used to ask innumerable questions. That was her favorite occupation. Whenever she gets half an hour, she'll ask me questions. And I could find that she was genuinely interested, wide variety of questions, but she's genuinely interested. She wants to know about everything under the sun. So I sit there and patiently answer every question. Why? Because every time I give her an answer, she is getting one tidbit of information free without having to study it. Okay, her general knowledge is increasing steadily without her having to study. So it's a great thing. You can build up children's knowledge a lot if we have the patience to answer their questions. So at the age of 8 years, my daughter's been 1 hour, she's been non-stop asking me questions. Suddenly she stops and says, "Daddy, how come you know everything?" So I said, "See, Linda, in the last 1 hour, twice I had to tell you that I don't know the answer, and I'll check up the answer and tell you later." She said, "Okay, that's correct, Daddy, but how come you know everything?" Okay, she really believes that most children at this age, below the age of 10 years, think that their parents are great. Their parents know everything. And the same 8-year-old girl, a little later, at the age of 16, she knows that her father, my daddy, knows nothing. My daddy knows nothing. Because she now has some interesting ideas of her own. And if her ideas are different from daddy's ideas, she cannot think of any opposites. She doesn't have that much of intellectual patience or understanding. Daddy is wrong. Everything that, every time she thinks different from daddy, daddy is wrong. My daddy knows nothing. That is also a common phenomenon, that our children at the age of 15 to 16 are a bit contemptuous of our knowledge. They think we know nothing. Oh, daddy is old-fashioned. He doesn't know. He doesn't even know how to use a computer. I have to show him how to use his mobile properly. So that is one aspect where they are actually superior to us. I have to teach him the mobile. If he makes a mistake on the computer, I have to correct it. And otherwise, in all our matters, also, daddy knows nothing. It takes some time for them to develop adequate experience to know that the situation is not so bad. And men, especially more than women, men take this as a personal offense. Lots of others, because we are used to, we are the people who read the newspaper for half an hour every day. We know everything. We like to discuss also the big philosophy and all that. Unlike our wives, we like to think that we know everything. And whenever our children ask us, we are ready to tell them, and whatever we say, they believe it. And now, at the age of 16, my daughter says that I know nothing, and this makes us feel terribly offended. Yeah, she has no respect for me. She says that I know nothing. The parents, especially the adults, the fathers, get terribly offended. And they try to argue, and they try to tell you, this is wrong, this is right, you know nothing, you have no experience. And that is very bad. The adolescent is trying to think for himself. With little knowledge, little experience, the adolescent is trying to think. Our job as adults is to encourage them to think. We must let them say their opinions. If they say their opinions openly, and if we just listen and smile, okay, they will accept it, and later they will keep on thinking about these things, and they will change their opinions by themselves. If it's something important, we can actually maybe disagree with them very politely. If it is something less important, maybe we should keep our mouth shut and let them have their own opinions. If my son wants to believe that Messi is the greatest footballer in the world, fine. Football is going on. He says Messi is the greatest. Messi is the greatest. Now, I am a very experienced person, and I know that Pele was greater. Maradona was a much greater footballer, etc., etc. What does it matter? If I don't mention the names of Maradona and Pele, will they feel offended? My son will one day if he's really interested in Messi, he will go through Messi and he will look at the other great football matches, and he will learn about Maradona and Pele. We don't have to teach them. It's not going to change his lifestyle if Maradona or Pele or Messi is the greatest footballer in the world. We must not take it as a ego problem. And maybe I am a Congress leader, local Congress leader, and my son talks about Marxism. Only the Marxists are really unconcerned with the poor, etc., etc. Okay, he wants to talk big. Let him talk big. He has to think. He has to understand what is Marxism. He has to think about the poor. Let him think. Don't disagree with him. Don't fight with him. Even if he tells us point blank that the Congress party is not a good party, it's okay. When it comes to real issues which actually affect his life, if he says something about us, about how studies are less important, or if he has different attitudes about sexuality, practical difficulties, maybe we will have to at some point tell them no. There are limits. Sometimes we have to be firm only when it directly affects them. Next, please. Studies, the most important thing, the most important responsibility of adolescents. Studies. They have plenty to study, and it's a cause of tremendous anxiety to them. We often say, we at least parents often say, maybe not pediatricians, parents often say that my children are not concerned about studies. They don't bother about studies. They don't care. This is a misunderstanding. Ask adolescents in any class, in any school you go to, what is your biggest stressor, and all of them, the majority of them, even in the rural schools, in the weak schools, anywhere, they'll all say studies is their greatest burden. Okay, they'll all say that. But if not in front of their parents, if you go and take a class for them, they will all admit that studies is the greatest worry. But if I am studying badly, if I am doing badly in my studies, what's up? And I can't manage, or at least I believe that I can't manage. What's the point when the parents complain about it, criticize me, try to push me to study? I'll say that studies are irrelevant. I am denying reality. The one way in which a adolescent manages the problem is to deny reality to himself, and especially to avoid excessive parental pressure. What the child needs, what the adolescent needs is not further pressure from the parents. He needs emotional and intellectual support from the parents. Next slide, please. They need to be motivated to study. Most students underestimate themselves. There has been some lovely studies have been done in developed countries where it has been shown, like for example, one study, it has been shown that you take a register from the class register and you just tick 5 out of those out of the 25 names. Okay, you at random you pick up 5 names. You don't know any of the students. At random you pick up 5 names. Then you tell the adult, then you do some IQ studies of the children officially, and you tell the teachers that these 5 whom you have chosen at random, nothing to do with the actual IQs, these 5 are unusually intelligent, bright, brilliant, etc. And 1 year later, when you see the performance of these adolescents in the previous class and in this class after 1 year, you will find that those 5 children whom you picked at random have done much better than previously, because their teachers were told that they are extra brilliant. Their teachers were convinced and gave them more support and encouraged them more, and they did better. They actually did better. Just by telling them that they were better, the extra little bit of extra help from the teacher, they did better. When parents and teachers are positive in their attitude, when they motivate the children to study, when they encourage the children to study, they perform better. Okay, there have been many various studies. This particular study is a little unethical because you are telling a lie to the teacher. But there have been many studies of different types since this, which have shown the same thing, that the children need motivation. It will improve their performance. The worst child is not going to become the best, but they will improve upon their own performance invariably if they are supported. So encourage them to study. Help them if and when they need help. Give them tuition if they actually need tuition in one particular subject. Don't say, I'm going to send you for tuition because you are not studying. No, that's discouraging them. That's hurting them. Don't nag, and don't overreact to occasional failures. Even the best of us who are very good in our studies have occasionally failed. It doesn't matter. All we needed them was a little moral support, and we came back. And do not compare them to others, because not even to their siblings, not to their neighbors, because each person, all persons cannot come in first in the class. If he's trying his best, that's all that you can do. You must not compare him to others and say, oh, you are inferior to that person, you must study more. Next, please. And Okay, and then one point here is that the adolescent, we must support them. If we support them, they will when what we have to check is, are they performing today better than they were performing last year? They must compete with themselves, not with other people. Okay, because all persons cannot come first. Are they trying to do better? Are they doing better this year than last year? That is what is important. Now, I come to another topic, which one of my favorites is that sleep is the best stress buster. Stress is part of adolescence because there's a lot of change occurring. And study is a major cause of stress. And sleep is nature's stress buster, the best stress buster ever invented. And unfortunately, parents tend to cut down sleep, which is the easiest way to increase the child's stress levels. Nelson textbook of pediatrics 2020, page 134. Forget 2020. For the last 40 years at least, every edition of Nelson has been, next slide please. Every edition of Nelson has been showing this picture. It's actually shown in the form of a graph, which I have simplified here, which shows very clearly that every 5 years, the child's sleep requirement decreases. By adulthood, that's from 25 to around 55, sleep requirement is 7 hours. At 15 SSLC, 9 hours of sleep is required. Most of our adolescents, we are not permitted to sleep 9 hours because we have thought it was a waste of time. I am sure most of us, when we were adolescents, this pressure of this business of don't sleep, sit and study full time was not there. Most of us did sleep 9 hours and we studied also. But today, children are told to study only 6 hours and sleep only 6 hours and spend their next 6 hours studying. And that is often counterproductive. I regularly see children like that who become very violent, very disobedient, whose study performance crashes. And you can easily pinpoint when you ask that it started to happen 3 months ago when the mother cut down the child's sleep by 1-2 hours, and in order that he can study 2 hours extra. Okay, sleep is the best stress buster. And by 20 years degree, 8 hours of sleep is adequate, but 4 hours of study would be preferable, not just 3 hours. Now, honestly speaking, how many of us actually studied 4 hours a day when we were doing IMBBS? So if we could not study 4 hours, if we had difficulty studying 4 hours during MBBS, are we right in pushing our children of 15 years to study 4 hours, 6 hours? Wouldn't 3 hours be better? Next slide, please. Next slide.
Yes, that's not moving.
Okay. Now, why is sleep so important? Because if you don't get sleep, your performance is going to, what happens is that you don't get enough sleep, studies actually worsen. If a little bit, it's a very common problem. When you, suppose you have slept well, we all know this experience. Suppose I have slept well last night. Today, my mind is fresh. I am alert. So I can study very fast. Okay, I can study in 1 hour, what I normally take 1.5 hours to study. My concentration is good, so I can study fast. But if I have not slept well last night, what's going to happen is that today I will be sleepy. Okay, today I will be sleepy. I will daydream much more and study poorly. So that is the my study performance can my concentration will be bad. I'll be studying 1 hour extra because my mother woke me up 1 hour early. I'll be studying 2 hours in the morning instead of 1 hour, but my performance may be equal to only 1 hour because my concentration is poor. I am daydreaming in between. Today I study. Then I go, then tonight if I sleep well, it is in deep sleep that memory, long-term memory is established. If I don't have good sleep tonight, I will forget. Tomorrow I will remember. If there's an exam next week, I will remember. 3 months from now, I will have forgotten all that I studied today. We all need to revise what we are studying. Once, twice, 3 times maybe. But if we are not sleeping adequately after studying, our memories are so poor that nowadays is a fashion to tell a child that you should revise the portion 6 times before your exams. I have never revised anything more than twice in my life. Of course, there are slight differences in the way we all study, but full-time revision, if the memory is so bad, or is it because you're just not sleeping adequately? If you have poor concentration, poor memory, then what's the point of studying? Inadequate sleep in order to increase study is frequently counterproductive. The other problem is no motivation. The more the child, the less sleep the child has, naturally less motivation also he will have. And we say study. What are we talking about? We are studying only about studying at home. The major study of a child occurs in the school. And if he has slept only 6 hours and then he goes to the school and he's sleepy in the class, or sometimes even if he's sometimes he actually falls asleep, or even otherwise he's drowsy in the class, not concentrating. What is the point? Those so many hours, 6 to 8 hours he's studying at home, he's in the class, he's not concentrating, he's sleepy. Then he comes home and he studies for 3 or 4 or 5 hours. It is counterproductive. It is the total amount of study that you do in a day that is important. But the parents only watching the study that they can observe, the study at home. They are not concerned about whether the child is studying in school or not. They are worried about how many hours my child studies. They are not worried about how much marks my child is getting. If the child is doing very well, why do you want to push him more? If when you push him more, cut down his sleep, his study performance falls, wouldn't it be wiser to allow him to sleep more? Next slide, please. Diva? Difficulty. Yeah, okay, this is okay. Next, please. Yeah, and now after studies comes careers. These are the next topics are generally not discussed much. So I just thought I said I'll say a few words about them. Careers. In our time, there were only 2 careers. If you are a good student, there are only 2 careers, either doctor or engineer. That situation has now changed. Computers have come up in a big way. MBA has come up in a big way. So many things are coming up in a big way today. So should we compel children to go into this or that? Or of course, if we have, shouldn't we allow them more freedom to choose their own subjects? Next slide, please. Yeah, I feel that it is our duty as parents, with our vast experience of this, of the world, of the reality, that we must guide our adolescents. We must advise them. We must show them alternative viewpoints. We must discuss with them. We must guide them, but we must not compel them. My son was not interested in this studies or full time. They were walking only about his patients. He's thinking about others. He's not thinking about himself. So, okay, he didn't want medicine. He's not interested in interacting closely with a lot of people. He was very interested in computers. I told him it's a good field. He's now a computer cyber security expert in Germany and earning 4 times my salary. Okay, so if they are interested in a particular field, let them go in for it. My daughter, top of the class right through, and in the 10th standard, she after finishing her 10th, she distressed all her teachers by saying, I'm going to take +2 humanities. They said, no, you must take PCMB, you must follow your father's profession. She said, I like humanities. Social here, sociology, history, geography, what are you interested in? She wanted it. I said, go ahead. And today she is, for the last 8 years, a college lecturer in sociology, assistant professor of sociology in Sacred Eye in St. Teresa's College, Naklam. And yesterday she got a PhD. I'm so thrilled. Okay, so we should encourage them we should guide them. But if they have specific interests, specific abilities, specific interests, we should support them. Don't force. We should always support them, because they know what is easy for them to study. They know what is interesting to study, and study is a long time job, and hopefully a lifetime job. I strongly believe that we as doctors should not force our careers on our children. Many persons have a complaint that they landed up in medicine only because their parents pushed them into it. There are so many other specialties. We need not think that our specialty is the greatest. That is not really right. It is much easier to study a subject that one likes. Salary is a very important criteria for practical purposes, but I think it should not be the main or only criteria. And we must remember that fashion in jobs changes regularly. When I went for my PG 35 years back, etc., long ago, When I went for my PG, in those days, if you're good in your studies, you're good with your hands, surgery, good with your brain, medicine. You take medicine or surgery or pediatrics, medicine or surgery. So I got a very good ranking. I could take what I want. I chose pediatrics. And when I joined Trivandrum Medical College Department of Pediatrics, the pediatrics, they are accepting the HOD, all the other assistant professors were criticizing me. Why did you take up pediatrics when you could easily have taken up medicine? So I'm trying to explain to them, I love children. I'm more interested in studying pediatrics than medicine. They couldn't understand me. Medicine is much better. That was when I got my admission in 88. 3 years later, by 91, medicine and surgery are down, pediatrics and orthopedics are up. Okay? And even today, to a great extent, that is the situation. Another 5 years later, totally unknown subjects called radiology and dermatology are right there on top, and these subjects have gone down a little bit. Fashion in jobs change regularly. We must be aware of this fact. We can encourage our children to tell them that this looks better, and we should explain why we think it is better, but let them make the final decision. Next, please. Yeah. Now, a word about hostel life. These adolescents are now going into the hostel, and many of them think it's a great experience. Okay, they enjoy it. It's a, if they can, that it's a great experience. One of the big things about hostel life is you're free. You're totally independent of your adults. Totally free of them. You can live your own totally independent life. Next, please. Yeah, that independence is one of the big advantages that they talk about. And with this independence comes self-confidence, experience with living with a lot of people, self-confidence, social skills can develop very nicely. And especially if it's good, if it's a good boarding school or like something like Navsainik school, you can actually, it's very good. And like in the Navsainik school, there's a very regular lifestyle. You have to go to sleep at this time, wake up at this time, then there's exercise at this time. You have to sit at your books at this time, go to school at this time, a very regular lifestyle. And that is very important for adolescents. In addition, so regular lifestyle and fitness. And this helps them to develop social skills, self-confidence, and that independence is very creative. So if you're in a good hostel or a good boarding school, really it is a great blessing. But it can also have disadvantages. And the number one disadvantage is the same thing, that there might be too much of independence, too much of freedom. If the adolescent does not have the maturity to handle it, he can end up just, okay, I am free now. I don't have to study. Nobody is there to pressurize me. So I am not going to study. And then he can lose his way. And after some time, he realizes it, but he's already gone back a little bit. And it's difficult for him to make up, and he feels depressed and unhappy. Too much of freedom can also mean going into alcohol and drugs and lots of ways of making mistakes if you have too much of freedom and you do not have the maturity to control it. Next, please. Yeah. And also ragging, even today, all over India, is a problem which can be a major disadvantage. It can totally ruin the child. Depression, anxiety can manifest, and it's not diagnosed, it's not treated. It's a big problem in all our medical and engineering colleges. Then there are less important but still very common problems like homesickness, unable to digest this kind of hostel food, lack of privacy because you frequently have to share a room with one or two others, especially if you're an introvert. These are comparatively minor disadvantages, I feel, but these are the things that hostelers generally complain about when they asked about the advantages and disadvantages. Next, please. Yeah. So when they are in the hostel, how do we parent them? The big problem is that, like I said, too much of independence. They are too much separated from us. We have suddenly there's a disruption in the chain between the parents and the adolescents. The lack of control, they can lose their way. What we can do to some extent is, one, of course, we will visit the hostel when they are going to join it. We will visit the hostel. We will see what is happening, and hopefully we can make contact with our warden, discuss what the situation, and get a contact number. We must also visit the city and see what type of a city is, what type of lifestyle is going on. We should have an idea, a feel of the place. This much we can do. Then Contact basically means frequent phoning, regular phoning. Like with my son, it was once a week. With my daughter, it was twice a week. That is the only close contact that we had. And visit them regularly. This is something that I didn't do, and in retrospect, I think it was a mistake. We should visit them as often as we can. Find time to visit them, because phoning is different, and visiting them, staying with them just for 2 or 3 days, it is different. We would get a better feel of them and of the hostel life and of the type of friends that they have. We should, and also we should encourage them to take maximum free home trips whenever they get holidays. Money can be about it, but I think finances are less relevant here. We have to maintain maximum contact. This was something that where I was a bit of a failure. We have to find out, we have to be aware of how they are studying. If they are studying as we expect, probably all the other things will be going on reasonably well. If they are not studying well, if their performance is falling, then what is the purpose of them being in a hostel? Okay, why have they gone to that hostel? And also, it could also mean depression, anxiety, a very lax, lazy lifestyle, smoking, alcohol, drugs. It could mean a lot of dangerous things which we are not aware of. So we have to keep an eye on their studies, which is the primary purpose for which they were there. And also an eye on expenses. They will need some pocket money, but if we are not excessively generous and we ask for accounts, if we keep an eye on expenses, reasonable expenses, then there will not be, then we will at least know if they are going to waste their money on alcohol and drugs. Just a few suggestions on my part. Next, please. So what is the advantage of a hostel? That is very important. Why did we send our son to a hostel? Of course, if they're joining medical college, engineering college, unless they are very close by, we have no choice in the matter. And if it is a good place, like I mentioned, it can instill discipline, good habits, independence, self-confidence, wonderful, if it's a good place. Our medical college hostels and nursing and engineering college hostels are not necessarily very good places. It's important that they must understand that they are not being sent to a hostel as a punishment because we can't discipline you, we can't look after you, you're also disobedient, so we are trying to get rid of you. That should not happen, because if we send an adolescent to the hostel with that attitude, their attitude also is going to be very negative and it can be very dangerous. It can be very bad. They can start with a negative attitude. My parents don't want me. That attitude, my parents are sending me away, it's a punishment. That attitude can totally spoil their attitude towards the hostel and towards hostel life and towards the purpose of coming to the hostel, which is to study. And one big problem today is that in most of these, there are so many engineering colleges and many medical colleges and so on. The hostels are now becoming a dumping ground, I feel sometimes, for a lot of +2 students, especially the parents are abroad, but even if the parents are in India, why do you want to look after the child? Just dump him in a hostel, give him plenty of money. You've got money and you don't have time. So you dump him there and then don't bother about it. And so what happens? There was these parents from Ernakulam, both of them doctors, very busy, 12 working 14 hours a day, minting money, and their son, they've got unlimited money, so they put their son into a private medical college. And the first thing that they do before taking him is they take him to the nearby shop and buy him 70 shirts of the best quality branded shirts. They buy it and take it and take him over to the hostel. Okay, and 1 year later they get a notice saying about his sort of mark sheet from the hostel. Good thing that the hostel was providing that the result of your first year exams, and it showed that the son had failed in many subjects and had not done the other subjects. So they are shocked. They have been asked, because he had not appeared for an exam, they've been asked to come to the college and see the principal. And when they go to the college, they go to the class and the guy is not in the class. So they go to the hostel and there's nobody there in the hostel. It's all everybody's gone to class except there's one rowdy walking around the place. And when they go to his room, they found that rowdy is actually their own son. He is dressed in rags. And he's just walking around with a blank stare on his face. So they go into his room and his room is filthy. And when they open the cupboard, there's a big packet there. 70 shirts in a big packet, unopened. Okay, his parents gave him all the money that he wanted, all the things that money could buy, but they never had the time to turn back and just make a phone call to him for one full year. And so he kept those 70 their clothes untouched, and he was living on rags and wasting his whole life. So most of the engineering colleges, you will hear this. That is why the Christian engineering colleges are very strict, and they are getting sometimes get into trouble. They are very strict. CCTV cameras all over the place, and they give reports to the parents about how the adolescents are doing. And the adolescents, many of these adolescents, good students, they go over there. They're not studying. They're not studying. Many of them are bunking class. Many of them are not studying, or they bunk the class, or they bunk the exam. And a 4-year course, all you have to. The course is not too tough. You have to go and say attend class regularly, right? Study a little bit. Regularly, if you study in 4 years' time, you'll finish your 4-year engineering, whichever engineering you take, you'll finish your engineering course. And then you come out, and if you got reasonable marks, you're going to get this job straight away. But what you do with a person who in 4 years has bunked a lot of classes and has not written a lot of exams, and then he takes 6 years, 7 years to finish his course? The majority of students in most of the engineering colleges in Kerala are in that state. We're not talking about maybe the 10 best colleges, America engineering colleges are there, the government colleges and so on. Most of the colleges, there is a lot of backlog, and these are not weak students. Yeah, some of them are just dumped there because of too much of money, and some of them are just good students who have lost their way. We have to keep a close eye on those who we send to a hostel. Next, please. I think we'll conclude here. There's a lot more, but I mean, there's a limit to what we can talk about in one day to what we can listen to in one day. So the role of parents is the same, whether it's children or adolescents. Unconditional love associated with firm discipline. These two are always required. For all the good training, they always love, unlimited love for them, no matter what wrongs they do. But along with them, that firm discipline where discipline is required. Even with the adolescent, requires discipline, not as openly, not as aggressively as we do, not as up down, top down as we do it in children, but discipline is required. It is generally in a more, we keep an eye on them. We keep an eye on the children openly, but on the adolescent, it has to be more of an inconspicuous vigil, and the guidance and the should be more gentle and indirect. But they need it. Otherwise, they are very commonly going to become underachievers. Feelings of inferiority are very common because they have so many things to juggle with. They are so confused. They easily feel inferior because inside every way they feel that they are inferior to something, somebody, and they are very prone to risk-taking behavior. So inconspicuous vigil is required. Next, please. Yeah, next slide.
Again, not convinced.
Okay, anyway, so this is all there is to it. Basically, I think the last slide says that it is very easy to become a parent, but it is very difficult to be a parent. I think we'll stop here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for the excellent session. Despite glitches, it was a very excellent, very comprehensive. You covered everything. And Sugandha sir actually had a meeting at 9, so he wanted to inform everyone, like, he had to leave in between. So any comments, sir? Purushothaman sir, Santosh sir?
Dr. Newton, I was just enjoying learning a lot because I always look to two persons for learning all these things, parent and adolescence, Amar Fetil and Dr. Newton. And that is an excellent learning session. And I got one request for you because we looking after these patients with some what you call as a disability, you can't call it as disability, intellectual disability. We're not supposed to call it as disabled. That's a different topic. Anyway, intellectual disability group adolescents, there are a lot of things which are unattended, especially the both boys and girls of adolescent age group, the sexuality, and the females about the menstrual problems, a lot of ethical dilemmas and those. So some time later, you may give a talk on that, the special group of people about how to tackle those problems and how difficult that situation is for the parents, and maybe how to advise regarding such delicate things to the parents. So maybe some other time. Thank you, Notice, sir.
Thank you, sir. Sandhu, sir, any comment?
It's an excellent speech. Actually, it should be addressed to the parents rather than doctors. We are all we were parents, but they have crossed the adolescent age group. So young doctors has to attend these type of talks. Excellent. Excellent.
Thank you.
Shubha ma'am, are you there, ma'am?
Yeah. Can I say something? Excellent talk, Dr. Newton, and congratulations on your daughter getting her PhD.
Thank you.
And I was just wondering, would you categorize how to bring up a girl child versus bringing up a boy child? Because I'm sure there are a lot of parents who ask questions, how do I parent my son or how do I parent my daughter? Is there anything specific that you want to tell us about?
Actually, madam, I think the basic rules are the same for both, aren't they? Of course, when adolescents, with the girls, we have to start a little earlier. They mature at least 2 or 3 years earlier. And we have to start with the most basic thing about menstruation. So we start there. So that is a totally different issue. Then the kind of things that we talk to them about menstruation and about looking after themselves, and we have to talk about sexual abuse. There are certain aspects which we have to give more concentration on there. Other than that, the basic principles of management, I think, are the same. We differentiate a little too much between boys and girls, I think. Especially with regard to freedom, we tend to give boys a little more freedom than they are capable of managing. And with regard to girls, we give them a little less freedom than they are capable of managing. So I think we have to grow up and give them both as much freedom as they can tolerate, but not more. Girls are generally, even my own daughter, I saw that when I am trying to, I know how smart she is, I know what she is capable of, I am trying to give her freedom, but there are lots of social restrictions on her because I'm just a parent. There are so many other relatives and the society which says, my God, she can't do this, she can't do that. So there are lots of things. Even she cannot even go by herself to the market at 7 o'clock when it's brightly lit all over the place because she's 17 years old. So we put a lot of unnecessary restrictions on the girl child. And the boy child, we are a lot more tolerant of them, especially of their violent behavior. So the type of topics that we talk about to boys, I have a specific topic on the misconceptions about masculinity and why boys get spoiled. So that the type of topics that we talk to boys about alcohol in our society, at least in Kerala, not in North India so much. In Kerala, the smoking, alcohol, drugs are boy problems. They are not yet girl problems, except in a few metropolises. So that is something that we have to focus on. Risk-taking behavior in boys, we have to be a little more strict in talking to them about that. So the kind of topics that we deal with there, and we have to be strict with them also.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you.
Nice to hear that you listen, madam. Very happy.
I always make sure. Deepa called me and I said, yes, I'm going to listen to Newton. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm always such anything else, Ranjit sir?
It was an excellent session. It's always a pleasure to watch Newton sir. It's like a story where we learn so many from each session of Newton sir. And as parents and adolescents also, it is very useful session. Thank you, sir, for accepting your invitation and for the Meet the Stalwarts session. As we have another program of IAP Kerala vaccinology course on 9 p.m. So we are concluding this session. So I am requesting Dr. Priya, the Joint Secretary of IAP Talasheri, for the vote of thanks.
Good evening all, respected dignitaries and senior pediatricians and dear friends. As we all know, the adolescent period is the real challenge for both the teenagers as well as the parents who deal with them. And parents have a crucial role in influencing and shaping the adolescents and as their behavior as well as their social development. And I thank the AHA team for bringing up this topic and giving us an opportunity to learn this topic from the stalwarts in this field. First of all, I would like to extend my heartfelt gratitude to our chief guest of the day, Dr. Sugandha Chatterjee, Chairperson, Central AHA, for his valuable comments. Next, I would like to express my heartfelt gratitude to Dr. Newton Lewis, today's speaker, past Chairperson, AHA Kerala, for sharing for this excellent presentation and for sharing with us a lot of practical points. Thank you, sir, for making this challenging topic sound relatively simple for us. Thank you for reminding us to love our teenagers unconditionally and be available for them. Next, I would like to extend my heartfelt gratitude to Dr. Jose, sir, for his presence and guidance. My sincere thanks to Dr. Shimi Paulos, President-elect IAP Kerala, Dr. Vijaykumar, sir, Dr. Krishna Mohan, Dr. Santosh, sir, Dr. Johnny Sebastian for their presence and guidance. My sincere thanks to senior pediatrician and my teacher, Dr. Purushothaman sir, for his valuable comments, and also to Dr. Shubha ma'am for her valuable comments. Sincere thanks to Dr. Ranjit P, Chairperson, AHA Kerala, and Dr. Deepa Janardhanan, a vibrant President and Secretary of AHA Kerala, for their tireless work in bringing this AHA subchapter to the forefront. I thank Dr. Danya, President, IAP Talsheri Branch, and Dr. Shyam, Secretary, IAP Talsheri Branch, for organizing this event in a seamless way. And sincere gratitude to Dr. Shweta B. Ram, the Master of Ceremony for today, for coordinating the event very well. And I also thank all the participants who have been attending this platform and making this making this conference a success. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, and good night. Good night.
Good night.